This dish is fairly simple. It only requires 5 ingredients that you can usually find in your household. You're going to need hot water, either from the stovetop or in a kettle like this one. You'll also need some flour. I use unbleached because that was more common during the time period. You're also going to need to get some scallion pancakes, chopped up into small bites. And lastly, you're going to need sesame oil, and this will help the bread separate later. You'll also need vegetable oil in a warm pan, and this is to fry the items. Once you have your flour in there, and it's 2 parts to 1 part water, you can put your warm water in. Now, as I said, it needs to be warm water. I recommend waiting for a little bit while the water cools down. And once it's cooled down, you'll start mixing it all around.
We now need to wait for 30 minutes while the dough rests for a bit. In the meantime, let's talk about the history of the scallion pancake and where does it come from. Scallion pancakes in China is known as chongyubing, and there is also a plain version of it known as liaobing or liubing. This is probably the earlier version of the dish that is believed to have come from India through the Silk Road during the Han period, 206 to 220 CE. In India, there are several unleavened dishes that are very similar to a plain scallion pancake, including parathas and parotas. Marco Polo is said to have invented the pizza through his enjoyment of scallion pancakes, which suggests how old that it might have been. So we know at least at the Yuan period, if this is true, that scallion pancakes did exist with this story. It is said that when Marco Polo returned home, he missed scallion pancakes so much that he brought the recipe to a chef. He then suggested some toppings that should be added on top of the mix, or in the mix, and thus the first pizza was created. This, of course, is however fictional, and this is not how the scallion pancakes became the origin of the pizza. It's important to note something about the fact that it came in from the Silk Road during the Han period. It is during this period that we actually start seeing the development of agriculture involving leeks and onions, particularly. During this period of time, leeks and onions, as well as other strong smelling foods such as garlic, were considered pungent in smell, and thus is considered a bit of a poison in a sense. Buddhists and Taoist clergy refused to eat these pungent foods, categorizing them as bad, and even if you were vegetarian, they would skip out on these dishes. Because of how pungent the food was, it was probably considered something of a lower class food, since it had the pungent taste to it. Another thing we can note from this is South China would be more the agricultural area for rice, whereas northern China would be the agricultural place for wheat products, and thus we can also consider it have thrived in the northern region of China, where rice would have thrived in the southern part of China. During certain periods of time, scallions were considered a part of waking up. You would want to have something pungent to help your body regenerate from its sleep, to help you wake up from the day. So if it was being developed, it probably would have been developed early in the morning, and it would been used as a breakfast food, if anything. The first documented account I could find of anything related to scallion pancakes was during the Warring State periods, which would have been 275 BCE to 121 BCE, which would overlap with the Han period. These morning foods would have helped out in that terms. The Yi Li Zhu Shu is the one who describes this, as it describes rituals and rites of an average person. If this is the case, scallion pancakes would have well been used for breakfast and in form of a midnight snack to help people stay awake. We do know that flatbreads were eaten by the educated elite during the Song period. This reference is mentioned in the Records of Dreams of Glory, which is written by Liu Zimu, who lived sometime around the 1270, as this is recorded to be happened on the emperor's birthday, which was April 8th. The emperor of this period of time was Emperor Duzong. It mentions flatbread as a form of essentially dipping, kind of similar to what we would do to naan bread today. It is mentioned that scallions, as well as scallions, that there was garlic also being eaten at this point. So the taboo of eating more pungent foods probably had decreased by this point in time in the upper class. A pancake is mentioned in the Yun Lin Tong Yin Shi Ji Du Ji, written by Nizan, who was a painter in the Yuan and early Ming period. The pancake is mentioned as being a wrapping, similar to a taco, for a Sichuan-style pig head dish. The following is mentioned as how the flatbread was made. Use 10 parts of first-grade flour. Add salt to boiling water and stir well. Knead the dough until very dry and firm. Take small balls of dough and place the large flat. Take small bowls of the dough. Place the large flatbread on a plate and cook until done, sprinkling with salt water frequently, then rolled in a damp cloth. This is fairly similar to what we do with bagels today, or with baozi, which is also known as steam buns. The pig's head dish has notably had scallions as an ingredient. There is mention of pancakes, including a crispy form, but no recipe was given. It is during the Ming Dynasty, 1368 to 1644 CE, that we see scallions in the same recipe as the pancake. This time as a filling and not mixed with the dough, as scallion pancakes does. This would be a topping piece versus having it mixed in with, say, an individual dish. We get this recipe from Yi Ya's Thoughtful Remained, or Yi Ya's Legacy, written by Han Li in sometime between 1330 and 1370 CE. The recipe is followed for rolled pancakes. 2 caddies of mutton and 1 caddy of mutton fat or pork, similar to the filling used for steam buns. Use more scallions or dried bamboo shoots. Stuff them into the pancake. Roll them into a strip. Seal the ends with flour paste. Fry until reddish brown, or simply blanch in spicy vinegar sauce. Serve with vegetarian fillings in the same way. This says that at this point in time that scallions were being put into the pancakes, though be it more similar to a steam bun, where you would put it inside the dough versus outside the dough, or mixed in with the dough. The document also mentions other pancake dishes, including meat pie, nam min bingzi, chive pancakes, and wind dissolving pancake. Wind dissolving pancake is the most similar of the dishes that we have today, but it was a sweeter dish made with ghee and honey mixed in. The chive pancakes were more of a sandwich with a pork filling between 2 pieces of bread. In the same book, there is a recipe for flatbread that has the same base ingredients, mixing ingredients, as scallion pancakes. Baked flatbread with dates. Take any amount of fine white flour, mix it with slightly warm water to make a stiff dough. Then press it with a rolling pin and shape it into an egg shape by hand until very smooth. Press a bean around the waist with a sharp knife, cooking the flatbread into a deep pot with white sand until cooked. If you're making dates, it is even better to cook them with white clay than with the white sand. Also, coat the flatbread with a little honey so it will not dry out for days. This is similar in terms that it is made with dough and warm water as the base. It is also rolled out into a shape with a pin before being fried, very similar to what today's scallion pancakes look like. There are many dishes with similar ingredients that are seen in the early Ming period that suggest that scallion pancakes were very likely to have been a medieval dish, and that has been revived in popularity in modern times. During the Ming period, there is an explosion of literature, including recipe books. In the Dong Ning Bi Shi by Liu Ji, sometime between 1311 and 1375 CE, there are mentions of flatbread and pancakes. Pancakes in this document are made of egg or leaves as the base, but otherwise very similar to what we see scallion pancakes being. This is an example of class difference as well, as our earlier examples were low officials or painters. Liu Ji himself was an imperial scholar. Eight Letter of Life Cultivation by Gao Lian, whose career is best described as in English as a writer or librarian, also had a pancake recipe in one of his surviving books, with scallions as part of the filling. He published this work around 1600, making it the end of period. This is a recipe historically. I'll continue doing more research and update this at a later date. Now that we've waited for 30 minutes for our dough to rest, let's head back and learn more about making scallion pancakes.
After it's been resting for half an hour, break it into 4 pieces. This should make a total of 4 pancakes. You want to flour down your board as well as your rolling pin. And then you'll roll it out and flatten it. If you need to, go ahead and add more flour down. Once you've flattened it, take your sesame oil and spread it all over the top. You can also brush it on with a brush. Once it's spread around, you're going to kind of treat it like a cinnamon roll. You're first going to twist it, turn it into a tortilla. And from there, you'll turn your tortilla into a cinnamon roll. Once you've done so, you can flatten it again. Once your pancake is flattened, you can now add your scallions. But make sure to put a hefty amount on here. It's what gives it its flavor. Then you'll treat it like you did with rolling it up the first time. First tortilla style, and then like a cinnamon roll. Once it's done and wrapped up, you can then flatten it one more time. Once it's nice and flat, you can then put it on a skillet. You want about 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil on there. You'll cook it until it's golden. Once both sides are golden, you can take it off. Make sure to cook it thoroughly, as raw flour can give you some food poisoning. Once it's done, you're welcome to eat. There are also sauces available that you can put on top of it. It's also great as a tortilla and make it Chinese-style tacos.
Hope you enjoyed making this dish. It's just a little something to add to your Chinese recipe booklet. Please enjoy making your own scallion pancakes and have fun